let people mill in as they do. Thanks everyone for attending. Please feel free to interrupt me because this is an incredibly intimate audience that I'm really excited to have, only because it generally drives some good questions. I recognize at the Jenkins World Conference what I'll be talking about more so the human element of how CloudBees delivers service and hopefully provide some guidance on to you and your own organizations on how we might, or how you might adopt some of these same methodologies to deliver your own service to your either internal or external customers, is not necessarily the reason you came to Jenkins World, but the fact that you're here makes me incredibly excited. So, my name, James Brown. I am the Senior Director of Customer Success at CloudBees. What that means practically, because most people are, what is customer success? Is I own our support delivery organization. So those are our engineers that answer cases as they come in, that get on screen share sessions with our customers. These are practical, seasoned operators in the field, having worked with Jenkins for some of them a decade now, since it was Hudson and then transformed into Jenkins. And as well as owns our customer success management organization, which are an evolution of an earlier program at CloudBees called the Sherpa, when we were more focused on a platform as a service product, a hosted solution that I'll kind of get in the history of, but really are folks that help you achieve the outcomes that you're looking for by connecting you with the right people and ensuring that you have all the information that you need to have that you might not be aware of to get from point A to point B. And then lastly, we have our technical success management, which is a value-added service that really is a named resource at the end of the day, that it works with you as a customer for a 12-month, 36-month period of time, that really ensures that what you're doing with your technology stays true to your mission goals, but also doesn't divert you from the roadmap that CloudBees as a commercial product presents. So, my promise today, this is not just a pitch. Really, what I hope you get out of it at the end of the day is some practical methods for scaling success in your own organization and learning a little bit about our journey to doing the same. We're not there. We're always striving to get there, which is a great place to be. And hopefully at the end of the day, or at the end of this session, reinforce maybe some of the things that you're doing already that maybe you don't have a name for, but that you can now kind of rally everyone around to really differentiate how you deliver service within your business, within your subscription, externally or internally. So why is it important? Why is it important to add value? Well, we can go down the road of open source, differentiating a commercial distribution of an open source project is very difficult. If the bits do what they need you to do within your enterprise, it's a very tough sell to the people who are making budget decisions of why they might go ahead and subscribe to it. Certainly a subscription business, unlike a more traditional proprietary license where you pay once for the solution and then maybe only interact with that provider as you have problems. We, as a subscription model business, we have to work every day to earn that renewal to ensure, because every day, every year, every renewal is a voting year at the end of the day. And one of the statistics that I found, and I've used for the past year or so, incredibly motivating, is that 89% of companies believe that customer experience is a real basis for differentiation in their purchasing decisions on a day-to-day basis. This is, this comes from the Gartner folks, so people that spend many times looking, researching these types of topics, and something that I think when you use this as a mission going forward, a basis for your service delivery model, really helps motivate, really helps bring together not only the people maybe within your team, but across your business to impact change and provide a great customer experience. So the challenge that I was presented with coming to CloudBees as a leader in this space, was to create added value to the CloudBees subscription built around a widely adopted and well-known open source project. Simple, right? Well, again, why? Well, Stack Overflow has answers. I can ask questions there. Is there SLA on Stack Overflow? No. Might you get an answer from Stack Overflow you weren't expecting? Perhaps. Google, certainly provides, a number of returns on whatever problem that you can imagine that you may be having, none of which are authoritative, and is a large part of the value of the subscription that you provide through that human element of the service that we deliver. And so really going forward, I'm going to talk about these foundational tenets and hopefully celebrate, to a certain extent, my team who's been working to build this out, often without the applause that the product releases bring and the excitement that comes with adopting a new solution, but really is the foundation for people who are building something transformational, something important within, mission critical within their business with the confidence that they need. So we'll dig a little into knowledge-centered support, KCS. The foundational premise behind this is capturing knowledge as we learn it to make it available in a scalable means for not only ourselves to grow, but you as customers to grow, and really kind of seed the pool of a self-service mechanism that doesn't exist when you don't have that centralized kind of portal or channel for collecting that knowledge. And then we'll talk a little bit about the CloudBees technical community. I'm walking way too far away from my thing. The clicker stops working when I get about 5 feet away. The CloudBees technical community, which is a little different, right? In small businesses, absolutely. Everyone's everyone's an engineer, everyone's part of the problem. And that doesn't change as you grow, but certainly your roles become more refined. Teams start to focus on more granular items, and you tend to lose that insight across the customer base that's practically leveraging your solution on a day-to-day basis. And so the CloudBees technical community is a methodology, a framework that we created that we'll talk a little bit about, where absolutely everyone from the CTO down works with our customers on a regular basis to ensure we don't lose that touch, even as we've grown to hundreds of employees from just a handful. And then lastly, customer success. Success kid meme is probably my favorite meme and most overused, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, customer success is really, it's not a misnomer. It's not unintuitive. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's about making sure that as subscribers to our solution, to our technology, that you're successful in those endeavors that it's meant to succeed at. And ultimately, when you win, we win. So KCS, a deep dive into knowledge-centered support. If you aren't familiar with the consortium of knowledge innovation, definitely recommend you learning a little bit about that. It's one of these things where it just makes so much sense that if you hadn't heard about it before or haven't been practicing these methodologies, you kind of scratch your head wondering why, like how have I been alive this long and not recognized, this simple methodology for scaling the knowledge that we gain every day and through the course of our work. And the consortium will tell you knowledge-centered support, while one of the things I've highlighted here from an outcome perspective is a piece of knowledge. It's not necessarily, what they'll tell you is that it's not the knowledge that you create, it's not the outcome that's important, it's when you adopt KCS, knowledge-centered support, as a methodology and actually solving problems. So it's a bit of a nuance and a mental hurdle to get over until you start to practically apply it. But how it different, the basis to it is, and in the way that you'll find it through the CloudBees subscription and the knowledge that we create, is unlike knowledge bases, many existing knowledge bases, but even certainly the old ones, knowledge was created by engineers after they'd solved problems, right? It told you, oh, well, the system crashed because of this bug and this line of code. If customers knew that that's why the system crashed, they wouldn't be asking us, right, to help them solve that problem. And they certainly don't go searching for in our knowledge base for that line of code, for that particular thing. They search for symptoms. They want to know, why did my system hang? How can I use, create webhooks for GitHub to trigger Jenkins jobs? Very basic, practical things. And so one of the first aspects of KCS that you should adopt when creating any type of knowledge is to use the written word of your customers, the symptoms that they use, because that's what they look for when they come to your site. And so creating a knowledge base, if that's something that you are charged with or you have a team charged to do, go back and look at it. How is it? Are you finding articles that are meaningful based on a problem that you're trying to solve? And if not, it's probably because you're not writing it in the words that customers are actually searching for or Googling for. So the framework behind it also includes a few little things, but it's very simplistic. Environment to provide constraints, a version that's impacted. This is something our customer has the ability to go ahead and then quickly diagnose, okay, my symptom, yes, I'm running this, okay, awesome. Here's the resolution, right? What you'll find here is this isn't supposed to be laboring. This is supposed to be easy. This is, you've done the heavy lifting, you solved the problem. We shouldn't be spending time, engineers shouldn't be spending an incredible amount of time writing an issue, environment, and resolution. It should be part of how you solve your problem. It should be done while you're doing it. Now, that's a very practical example of a knowledge base article, but doesn't really get into the holistic value of of KCS, which includes both a solve, which we've talked about, and an evolve loop. So the evolve loop we'll touch on a little bit later, but at the end of the day, if you're capturing your knowledge, in a way that's scalable, that is accessible, then you don't have those silos, the tribal knowledge, the silos that prevent other people from learning and growing from that. And certainly as a service organization, you're not scaling out the most expensive resources you have, the actual people. And what you'll often have are folks solving across the globe, as in our case, prior to really adopting this methodology, the same problem over and over and over again. And often to the detriment of the customer, who really has something they need to get done, and would like to often do it themselves. So I'll fast forward. KCS, though, is certainly something I highly encourage everyone to go and look into and think about critically in their current environment. This is something from my team. I don't throw statistics out there often, but from 20 months ago, we've grown from 2,000 views of our articles to 40,000 views of our articles, which from a Jenkins perspective is relevant, only because CloudBees, as a Jenkins commercial provider of the solution of a platform of distribution, but also support, these are real world issues that your peers in industry, as consultants in the field, are running into that we really narrow to focus on from an enterprise perspective to help you kind of progress more quickly than you can necessarily with Google or Stack Overflow, both of which are awesome, but not necessarily the channels you're betting your business on from a day-to-day basis. Awesome. So I mentioned the CloudBees technical community. This is actually a really great example, I think, of how CloudBees itself is innovative from a service perspective. So whether it's consulting, our customer success team, the CTO, Kosuke, our engineering team, our operations folks, our solution architects, anyone that has any type of technical capability can be brought to bear at any point in time to help you, to help us, our team from a support delivery perspective, but also you as the customer progress any issue that you might be having. Some of the there are some practical hurdles in adopting this that this type of methodology, certainly, well, it's not my job. I have this to do. There's not enough time in the day. And what we learned was that really focusing how we push content and how we make push engagement opportunities with each of these roles and how we make it available for them to pull was the key. We use a case management system that allows us to create triggers that push information to very specific pockets of people based on their subject matter expertise. And what that means is, even while you might be interacting with a support engineer, also who are educated, academically trained software developers, again, seasoned operators in the field, we're engaging every single one of these people at the same time, such that we can get rapid feedback, a very tight feedback loop on these types of problem, on a problem potentially that you're facing. And then what you'll start to see is, and the promise back to these people, you can think engineering, right? So often the support engineering divide is something that customers, want to know about. Well, how well is that methodology? How often do I get into engineering? How do we escalate to get there? And this is a means to actually bypass that. They're part of that. We don't have a traditional L1, L2, L3 model. We have this collaborative model where we seek collaboration and work in parallel with engineers anywhere that you might see here to solve your problem real time. And our commitment back to them is knowledge-centered support. Our commitment back to them is that we've learned from this interaction with this senior individual who has the ability to solve this problem in a few minutes, created some scalable content to go ahead and enable customers to do that on themselves, but then also give our engineers who aren't necessarily focused that narrowly on that piece of code or that space, the opportunity to go ahead and grow themselves. And so what you really get here is this great circle, closed loop of how we take, not just from a support perspective, not just from an engineering perspective, but from people who are creating best practices like our solution architects, the guys who are visioning what 3 years from now Jenkins look like, the CTO, along with the rest of the community. We're getting that type of knowledge fed back into the system in a way that you can take advantage of it as subscribers on a day-to-day basis. The collaboration model is a little interesting, and it does require work to certainly get right. Everyone wants to know when you're paying money, how do I get to that next person? Because they automatically assume whoever they're getting out the gate is not the right person. It's one of the reasons why we have the engagement model that we do, where we schedule, certainly we have a case management system where you can engage with engineers, and we have the right engineers engaged at the right time, but you also have the ability to schedule engagements with our a day in advance with engineers, just to not even just solve problems, but brainstorm on a regular basis. And collaboration is really just a different approach. What we never at CloudBees, what we don't want and what we strive to achieve is that we're not going to be beating our head over the desk trying to figure out your problem while it matters most, right? When it matters most, and that's when you're impacted by it, or when you have timelines that you're trying to achieve and need to have some, need to make some progress at the end of the day. Again, this is something we leverage our case management system that through triggers and automation enables us to, again, focus those types of either customers engagements or just more abstract technical problems to subject matter experts in each of those areas, areas of expertise or domains of knowledge, if you will. So I'll fast forward to customer success, which kind of brings it all together. So certainly when things go wrong, you want to know that you have someone there to support you, that throat to choke, if you will, someone to engage, and even when things aren't going wrong, but you just want someone to go ahead and brainstorm with, and engage and ask questions. How should we do that best? We provide that through our support delivery team and our customer success team more generally. So their charter, and we could probably go on for days about how to practically implement this, so I won't go there, but their charter is ultimately to help you get the most out of your subscription. The most out of your subscription isn't just the technical, it's also the knowledge that we make available. It's as new features are made available, that it's to make sure that you're aware of them. You don't know what you don't know. Most customers are focused in a very, they have 5, 10, 20 different tools that they're maintaining in a shared centralized service manner. And they need to spend as little time on every single one as possible, right? At the end of the day, don't have time to read release notes all the time, or when they do, it's a scheduled point in time, maybe 6 months, 12 months later. That's 6, 12 months of value that you've potentially foregone through your subscription that you can't get back. And so our customer success team is really focused on ensuring that when these types of changes and the evolution of the product and new features are made available, that you know it, that it's not something you have to pull or wait to hear from your quarterly roadmap or maybe biannually engagement with the account executive and solution architects who are hardworking in the field to bring us in more customers. One key thing, while we do have a role, customer success managers, and one of the things we don't do at CloudBees is relegate that responsibility to any one organization. Customer success at CloudBees is really everyone's responsibility. That's from the CEO down. And it's something that myself and my peers who engage with customers regularly have really adopted to ensure that there's not this that there are no gaps for you to be left behind. So features are great. Knowing about that is good. But technology, for the sake of technology, that doesn't add value. Unless you have some business goal that drives the adoption or the need for that type of feature or functionality, you might not be getting any value out of the solution that you've subscribed to. And so really what our customer success managers strive to do at the end of the day is tie back to your business goals, success criteria that we can use to ensure that we're driving to you the most relevant content at a point in time to be successful with the CloudBees Jenkins Platform. And my favorite meme again, when you win, we win. So I mentioned from a closed loop process, and this is really the most important thing, how it all comes together. Knowledge-centered support, the CloudBees technical community, how we solve cases, the customer success team who are engaged with every single customer. They take all these different channels of engagement, create funnels back into our product team to really drive functional change in the roadmap for the product on behalf of you, the customers. To ensure that we're getting ahead of systemic issues that we're starting to see as workloads scale, as you guys are taking Jenkins and the CloudBees Jenkins Platform to new heights. It's important that there's a tight feedback loop that translates into practical changes in the product or perhaps just practical changes in the guidance that we provide through the documentation, et cetera. And so it seems fairly intuitive, but without this, all that hard work, it really only gets you halfway there, right? As an organization, so picture yourself as a service provider. If you're not taking the feedback and the knowledge that you're gaining from your day-to-day interactions with your customers, again, whether they're internally or externally, and translating that into something practical, right, that your team can adopt or that your product team can go ahead and change in the product, you've really made no functional change at all. You've band-aided the problem, you've made someone happy, you've progressed the needle in that one very narrow scope, but haven't fundamentally changed the underlying value that you provide from a subscription perspective. And so one of my favorite mantras, build, deploy, run, very much in line with the continuous delivery type of mentality, is really how we engage as a customer success organization at CloudBees with each of our customers. And what that means practically is that, one, as a service organization, we're not just here when things break, right? So when you're a new customer, when you're planning a new deployment, when you're looking to do something different than you know how to do already, We encourage you to engage us, to come to us, talk to us, raise a case so that we have a channel to communicate, brainstorm on ideas. This provides, we provide webinars, success stories, best practices, practical means that you guys can, as the deliverers of this solution within your environments, can use with confidence and highlight to your leadership and your peers that why you're making the right decision. This is the type of engagement that we provide through our customer success organization. Certainly when things do go wrong, often when you are deploying these solutions, when you are using them on a day-to-day basis, we are there for that. That's one of my peers likes to call it table stakes. At the end of the day, support is table stakes. We have to be able to provide that. And we have to be able to provide it efficiently for it to be meaningful and to differentiate from a subscription perspective with the open source solution. And so to that end, we do have a world-class support delivery organization, folks that have been literally written books on Maven, written the book on Maven, have been part of Jenkins since its inception, with including KK, and really folks that, because they're challenged with meeting the needs of enterprises on a day-to-day basis, they're uniquely capable of solving these types of problems very quickly. Right? It's an automation. There's some automation engines and things that we've put behind the scenes to enable us to do this. Otherwise, I'd probably have people that were abandoning ship if we didn't have some scalable means, because it's really tough from a support perspective in general. And then lastly, running. And that's a lot of what we talked about here today, is running with the expertise that you get from a CloudBees, from a commercial vendor of an open source project. It's really about the best practices, the training that you guys have heard about, which is available through the go.cloudbees.com, or the CBN, the CloudBees network, to really, not just after you've deployed your solution, got it running and moving, but that you're continuing to mature with it, that you're continuing to be challenged and grow personally and professionally, as well as technically. Thank you all for a great day.